This conference will now be recorded.
So
I've been to the low intermediate one with Peter and Rick, but it's been just hard scheduling to get here, man. I got some stuff going on at work.
yeah, sure.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the high-risk recurrent advanced prostate cancer group. Virtual video chat, sometimes telepathic ESP. For those of you who are new, and we have one new man today, we do record these groups. If you have any issue with that, please give us a shout out and we will find a way to work around it. We record for two good reasons. One is because we have 40 or 50 people who listen to these sessions after we hold them for whatever reason, and also because a lot of the men who are in the group like to listen again in case they didn't pick anything up. Just a heads up again for new people that there is a chat window. There's a little bubble at the top of the screen, and if you click on that bubble, it'll open up a chat. And I'm just going to say hello, everyone, in the chat window, and you'll see something pop up, and we'll use that chat window to put links, information, goodness knows what else. So keep an eye on the chat window right the way through, because there could be helpful information for you that some kind person other than one of the moderators has posted in the chat window. I think what we'll do today, since I know we have a new gent, and there's a lot to talk about with him, that I won't do a roll call right now because there'll be more people coming along. We'll do the roll call when we get done talking to Fraz, and then hopefully we can see who needs time. Let's try and budget about 30 to 40 minutes for this. So around quarter to the hour, we will flip on to see who needs time today. I'll introduce Fraz, and then he can certainly speak for himself. Fraz is a very old and a very close friend of a recent friend of mine who came to live full-time in Tovah last year. Although his aunt has lived here for many, many years. His aunt's an amazing woman in her 90s who's world-renowned for neonatal psychology, how the time in the womb affects you. And so I knew Peter. I'd met him a couple of times. He has had a long life in the cycling world, including being a mechanic on the Tour de France and a lot more. And I first became aware of Fraz about 6 months ago, and we tried to get him onto the call. Fraz is 55. Currently 55, diagnosed in 2016 de novo metastatic, and has been treated by and large at University of Maryland, although he was the another unfortunate recipient of lousy admin at Johns Hopkins, which some of you may recall we've experienced with Ron Silverio, with Jim, with Venice Jim, and with Tebow, all of whom got screwed up with the admin. They love the doctors, they hate the admin. And I think Joel knows that too. And unfortunately, after extensive bone mets and a lot of standard of care treatment, Fraz found out last week that the cancer had moved to his liver. Just found that out. has had no genomic sequencing, which, as we all know, is not really standard of care anymore. At least germline should be done, if not more. And so in the last 2 days, and God bless Joe Blanchette, thank you hugely, we've arranged an appointment for Fraz with Dr. Antanarakis, who we all love. Now the hang up is how quickly we can get the medical records. And that's one of the things I want to talk with Fraz about tonight, how we can help him get his medical records. One of the things we do know is you don't want them sent to Hopkins. So Fraz, maybe in your own words, you'd like to just explain a little more. The gents on this call are really, really knowledgeable, fraternal, and will do everything they possibly can to support you, as I think you understand from what we just got done with Joel. So your mic's shut off now. Open up your mic and talk to us a little bit.
Well, that's pretty much my story. When I first got diagnosed, I was my PSA was over 1420, and then through the treatments, we've gotten it down to 0.9. But then it, slowly had risen until they finally said it's time to see Dr. Hussein down at University of Maryland. We were happy with the way things were going, and kind of not, and then getting broadsided with this the liver thing kind of threw me off track a little bit. And then because they were saying that the chemo, they're waiting to see if the chemo that we're doing right now is going to work. Is working, but after the first round of chemo, it dropped my PSA by 1,000 points this time on the first round. So I just had this second round about 2 weeks ago, but they can't give me another round of it until my platelets come back up, because it's knocking me down that way. And then getting hit with the liver issue on top of that. Was not expecting that, and also didn't. They were telling me that if I can't tolerate the chemo and I stop chemo, from the time I stop chemo, I'd probably have 6 months. If we continue the way we're going right now and the chemo is working, then they were saying I could probably, I wouldn't be here this time next year, but I could pull off that length of time. And that was even after we had found out about the liver thing. But then I'm hearing different, stories about the liver thing. Terrifying, because I got two little boys, a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old.
How the fuck can they tell you that way? It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
Sorry, it drives me crazy when
I guess what Larry is objecting to is when docs tell you these sort of numbers, and it makes everybody a little bit crazy, but we'll get into that. We can get into that a little bit. So,
yeah, I've been climbing the wall since I found this out, and then I have, of course, had to tell, both of my young boys that Dad's not going to be here next year. Which is, it's 6 years old and 10 years old. I mean, that's dramatic, to say the least. Yeah. To them and then to me as well. So you hear numbers and you freak out. And of course the doc told me, she goes, if I wouldn't have, it's tough. It's just tough to deal with. So, and I don't know where anything's going to go right now. I really don't,
So for those, I didn't mention this, I'm sorry, I should have done. Fraz's treatment history, as far as I know, I'm not totally clear. I don't know if Fraz is totally clear. His memory serves him well. Is they gave him docetaxel immediately, He failed abiraterone. I don't know how many sessions. What did you do? 6 sessions of docetaxel, Fraz?
Yeah, what they did, it was a clinical trial where they were doing that with, and then every other week hit me with radium 223.
Okay.
It was supposed to be a 10-round ordeal, but after 8 rounds, they said it's not working, to switch over to something else. And that's when they switched me on what I'm doing right now. Because I've had, the very beginning, I went through the Taxotere, 6 rounds of Taxotere, and responded to that really well at the very beginning. And then I've gone through like the different types of hormonal therapies and the Zytigas and all the other pill drugs and stuff like that. Going through the spectrum of those. So now we're at this double dose chemo right now that, I guess we'll find out.
So let me sort of clarify for the guys a little bit that he did 6 rounds of docetaxel with extensive meds to begin for extensive meds, which was the right treatment. Failed Abby after about 2 months, but I don't believe they ever did any ARV7 testing, which is ironic, since had you been at Hopkins, of course, that's what they would have done. That is to test for something that tells you whether you'll be good with Abby and ENDS or not. But he did. But Fraz did the Abby, didn't work. Did the ENDS, didn't work. And then I'm not sure what happened in the interim, but eventually got onto this docetaxel radium 223 trial that also didn't work. And now is doing, I believe, cabazitaxel and carboplatin. It has driven his blood count numbers. It's interesting. It's driven the red blood counts and the platelets very, very low, but the white and the hemoglobin are in normal range. So it isn't across the board. And I believe, Fraz, you got platelet infusion today and a unit of blood, or?
No, just a platelet infusion today.
Okay, a platelet infusion today, which in and of itself has some risk, as I explained to Fraz, because platelet infusion is actually a tissue transplant as opposed to a blood infusion, and he's also got some clotting problems. Carl, wherever you are, Fraz is going through some clotting problems right now. And the one thing that is really bugging the hell out of me is that they basically followed standard of care right the way through, but they've never done any genomic testing, either germline or somatic. And so, we're hoping that that's the first thing they'll do, since there is a liver tumor that can be biopsied and they get a sample from that. And then we'll lean on Foundation Medicine to turn it around in a week rather than in 2 weeks. The big issue facing us right now, maybe a simple thing we can kick off with, is I keep telling Fraz and Julie that they have to be their own best advocates, and they're getting the runaround from University of Maryland Hospital in terms of giving Fraz his records, and they've said they want to send them to Hopkins. We've told Fraz, whatever you do, and carry your records to Hopkins. They can send them if they want, but you got to cover it by taking your records yourself and handing them to Antanaraki's nurse. That's the only way we know they're going to get them on time, because Hopkins has a horrible habit of losing stuff. We let biopsies sit on the shelf for 8 weeks.
Not to interrupt you, but I talked to his lady today, and the reason they wouldn't release, I went down to the radiology to get copies of the scans and films, and I had to go down to the main records place to get all that stuff. But the problem they're having is with the COVID outbreak, they're not letting people down in there to actually physically pick up the records anymore. So they've got to do it via email. or FedEx the films. So that's the problem they're having right now, they're saying.
Well, I mean, my suggestion is they give them to your doc and you go get them from Hussein, or they put them outside the door and you get them. I don't know. Who else has anybody else had to deal with getting medical records during the time of COVID and getting them transferred? Did you have your hand up, Herb?
I did. I mean, in fact, I just spoke to NIH Medical Records today, and I didn't have any problem. I mean, I had to give them the form, and they said, if in 2 hours after they get the form, I can pick up the records. And that included discs of the scans.
Huh.
So, I mean, I think it's institution dependent. But I mean, other than I filled out the form wrong the first time, and I had to get it back to them, for which they were nasty. Once I got it back to them, they were right on it. So I think you got to be right on. I mean, I think I agree. You know, you've got to be your own best advocate here to get those damned records, and that's what I would do.
Yes, John Ivory, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I agree. I tend to bring them. I tend to get a copy of my records on paper and bring them along, just in case. But the only other thing is that a lot of these health systems are using the same hospital software now, software called Epsilon. And if most hospitals have that software, they theoretically can exchange electronically all the records and everything. I just wouldn't count on it.
The problem with that is that we've just seen it not happen too many times at Hopkins. In theory, you're absolutely right. And the hospitals are going to say it happens, but in practice, our anecdotal experience has been awful. And so my feeling is, let it happen if you think you can make it happen, but you cover it yourself. You see, if we could get Fraz's records tomorrow morning, we may be able to get them to Hopkins the same day. And I think that Dr. Antonarakis would see Fraz tomorrow, because I think he only has a clinic on Tuesdays. Otherwise, we've got to wait another week, and we don't really have that week to wait for somebody like Fraz. So anyone else got anything to say? Joel, what are your thoughts with this with this issue?
Well, if he needs any help, I can drive him to Hopkins too. I mean, if he needs them hand carried, I can certainly get him to the right office at the right time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes.
I just went to University of Maryland Medical Center site, and they have a patient portal.
Yeah.
Does that not have your records?
Yeah, I actually filled out the patient portal also, and that's telling you that 3 to 5 days doing it that way, that they'll send them electronically to the portal. So we put that in as well as calling the as Dr. Pinarakis, his lady calling the vital records to get the records also. So I got 2 channels working right now.
Okay. You know, I think if it were me, I'd call them up, or have Peter call them up as if it were you tomorrow, and just tell them you've got to pick them up, that it is very, very urgent. Where can they leave them? Or which doctor can they give them to? Let them give them to your doctor. You'll pick them up from your doctor or your doctor's nurse. Something along those lines.
I can buzz. I'll call them first thing in the morning and hound them that way and see if I can get them to do that for me.
Right. Anyone else got any suggestions on this?
When you talked to Antonarakis' nurse, did she seem to know that Antonarakis was willing to see you in a hurry?
Yeah, he had tomorrow, but he knew we couldn't get in tomorrow because we're trying to get these records square. So he put us in for Tuesday, so we have the appointment all ready to go. But I'm also going to call his nurse tomorrow and see if she's gotten a hold of the records, and also let her know if something cancels beforehand. You know, if somebody cancels before Tuesday, to let me know and we'll take it.
Mm-hmm. I think the big problem you might find, Fraz, is that these guys who are big time research docs, sometimes they only hold a clinic one day a week. They're not in the clinic every day.
Right.
So that becomes a bit of an issue. But my guess is, knowing Antonarakis, him knowing where you're coming from, that if you had those in your hand, he'd make time to see you sometime tomorrow. Because
Gotcha.
he's that kind of guy, wouldn't you say, Joe?
Yes, that's right. He's really interested in helping.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be on the horn first thing tomorrow when they open up.
Okay. Anybody else like to talk to Fraz?
Where do you live? Where do you live?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland.
And right, so you're really in Baltimore. You're near both Hopkins and Maryland.
Correct. Yeah.
Anybody like to talk to Fraz about any of the issues, from how to deal with his kids? And I know maybe Bill Franklin has some thoughts there, to where we might be going, the implication of the liver mets, anything. Len, what words of comfort and advice do you have for Fraz?
Well, my situation is so very different, Fraz. All my children are adults. So my experience in talking to them about my prostate cancer is not something that would be transferable to you, sorry to say. And well, I mean, I'm very sorry to hear about your condition, and I'm glad the guys are steering you to Antonarakis. He's one of the best in the world, so just wish you good luck with that. But unfortunately, I can't help you with the young children.
That's cool. I appreciate it.
Bill Franklin.
Yeah, Fraz, I didn't catch how old your kids were. They're teenagers, or?
No, they're 6 years old and 10 years old.
Okay. Yeah, I was 51 when I was diagnosed, so I guess that was yeah, my kids were 6 and 7
Okay.
when I was first diagnosed. So they didn't really understand the whole I'm going to get an operation and all that stuff. But we were always straight up honest with our kids about that kind of stuff, because I had grandparents that were ill, and an uncle that was ill, and we didn't want to, sugarcoat it. And, we didn't want to give them anything too harsh, but we didn't want to sugarcoat it either, right? They're sick. And when people get sick, they knew about death. I mean, they'd seen dead animals, birds and lizards, and they know that our pet cat died. And so it was easy. I don't say easy, but I mean, they can relate that people die too. So we were always pretty honest with them straight up that, if people get too sick, sometimes they can die.
Yeah, we're a very open family here. We got a policy here at the house where it's like, it doesn't matter what it is, you want to talk about it and voice what you got, what you're thinking. We're totally cool with that. And my 10-year-old, he totally gets what's going on. Because we told him, from the very beginning how this was unfolding, and then the 6-year-old, it finally registered with him the other day when, he realized that, next year I won't be here. It's just going to be him and his brother and his mother. That finally,
Well, you might be here next year. We're not sure yet, right?
Pray to God, man.
You never know what happens. You never know what might happen, man. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your condition. All of us are here because of this condition that we have that, could be one of us later. We don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm still here, and my kids know that, but they also know that might not always be the case. So
yeah, I hear you.
I'm glad your kids are taking it well.
Thanks, man.
So let's just talk a little bit, Fraz, in the last 10 minutes or so, about what could possibly happen. So there's a big could and there's a big may in here, all right? As I've written to you, The standard pattern is that once it moves to the liver, the time is short. And if you ask the docs, that's what they'll tell you. That's what they basically got to say. We know that's what happens when it moves from the bone to the liver. Not if it started in the liver, that's a whole different ballgame, completely different. But if it started in the bones and moved to the liver, by the time it gets to the liver, that's what we know. What we don't know is what the genomic sequence of your tumor is. And what that means is whether you have any special mutations, gene mutations, and we can tell you how to learn a little bit about this if you're interested, because I know it probably all sounds a little gobbledygook, but your cancer can have mutations, and those which make it less treatable. And we now have drugs that can address certain mutations, not all mutations, not every mutation, but some mutations. So the first thing we've got to do is find out if you've got any of these mutations or any of these other markers that would make you a good candidate for these drugs. What we're hoping is you are going to show some mutations, and what we have seen, sometimes quite remarkable, is how people respond. Not always, not everybody. What we do know is the longer you wait and the later you take these drugs, the less effective they're going to be. Some of them are immunotherapy drugs, some of them are not. I know you've done Provenge. The drugs we're talking about are very, very different from Provenge. Anybody else want to just explain to or enlighten Fraz as to where the treatment might go with somebody like a Dr. Antanarakis?
Well, he could do pembrolizumab if he has MSHI, or if he has, he could do Keytruda. He could do Opdivo.
Right.
Depending if he has the right genes. There's 13% roughly of prostate cancer patients that qualify for those DNA genes that either the homologous repaired defects or the regular gene defects. So you know, there's a lot of possibilities, but the first thing you got to do is do a foundation one and a germline.
Right.
So I'm wondering, they must suspect something if they're giving him carboplatin anyway. Because that's usually a go-to thing unless they suspect some kind of BRCA mutation or something.
Not necessarily, Peter, because what happens is that what they suspect is that the disease has morphed in some fashion or the other, that it's not behaving like a normal adenocarcinoma, at which point carboplatin is the prescribed drug. That's why you just got your carboplatin, because you got those, they saw those peritoneal implants.
Well, I also saw the BRCA, the BRCA mutation too, somatically.
And you did have the mutations, exactly, yes. Correct.
So, Franz, have you ever had any kind of biopsy, either prostate biopsy or bone biopsy or any kind of tissue biopsy?
Yeah, when I first got diagnosed, they pulled a biopsy out of my back, lower back of the pelvis, and then now just recently I had one, a bone marrow biopsy. I guess they pulled out of the back as well.
So they could ship that right off for a genomic test right away.
What's that?
That could be, those samples could be shipped off right away for a genomic test.
Yeah, I don't know. I never heard back the results on those. I never heard the results of the bone marrow test either.
Okay. Well, the recent one, the one that was done 4 years ago, isn't that helpful. The bone marrow may be more helpful, but the other thing is, and that could be a real, and that's going to be Antanarachis' core. Fortunately, it's a very easy procedure, usually an easy procedure to biopsy a liver metastasis, provided the size is there. If it's too small, then the bone marrow, if it was very recent, was done. But why did they take the bone marrow biopsy? What was the purpose of that?
He wanted to see if there was any cancer in the bone marrow itself.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good suggestion from Peter. Be sure to let, it should be in your records, but be sure to let Antanarachis know that you had a bone marrow sample biopsied recently.
Okay.
And so, anyone else got any thoughts? Herb, do you have anything you'd like to, from a medical side?
From a medical or whatever standpoint, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear the news. But when you really look at the literature, there's lots of stuff available to you. And so I'm kind of very disappointed that your doc would come back at you and give you these timelines, which may be wholly unrealistic depending on what kinds of therapies you could be eligible for. And there are many. I mean, if you go to clinicaltrials.gov, Fraz, there are many trials underway for people who have your situation. And it also seems like you're responding to carboxytaxel, right?
That's
Other
what it
than
seems
the
like.
bone marrow, you're responding. So that's a positive sign there. And maybe if they can just stretch out the therapy, you never know. So I'm not sure I would be so pessimistic, number one. Obviously, your kids have to be prepared. But at the same time, I think there's a bunch of stuff, and we can help you through this as the weeks go on if we need to, and find stuff that's available. So that's how I feel about it.
Gotcha. Thanks, man.
You should know that Herb is a scientist. Herb has metastatic prostate cancer, but he's also a scientist and has a lab, not for prostate cancer, at the NIH in where is it in Maryland?
Bethesda. Where we
Okay.
just had a Nobel Prize awarded today.
Oh, cool.
So that was good news.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Fantastic. For what?
It was to Harvey Alter, who discovered hepatitis C.
Okay.
He was looking at blood and figure out, I mean, they knew hepatitis A and they knew hepatitis B, and he had a whole bunch of blood that had neither. And he figured out it was hepatitis C, which led to treatment.
Okay.
I remember the days when I was in the lab when they referred to hepatitis C as hepatitis non-A, non-B. Remember that, Herb?
Right. Well, that's what Harvey figured out. It wasn't A and it wasn't B.
Yeah.
So it had to be something else. So I think it was a very well-deserved prize today. And of course, none of us are there to congratulate him in person. But NIH was a happier place today.
I'm sure.
And especially if we can go to work without having protesters across the street.
Fraz, I just want to let you know, I put a link in the chat box. The title was Talking to Children About a Parent's Terminal Illness.
Okay.
It's from the National Library of Medicine, Medical Encyclopedia. So it's a good source.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I put one in there too about a guy who had terminal illness and recorded videos of all the things he thought a 6 and 8 year old might ask after he passed on. So he ended up living, but I thought it was a real sweet thing to do.
Cool.
So yeah, and you'll find these. We'll show you where these are later. We put them under the recording, but you'll have them if you're using a PC and you go to documents. You'll find it automatically makes a copy of what's in the chat window, and or you can just click on the links in the chat window right now and it'll open up in your browser. Let's complete this. I see Dr. Mark just arrived. Let's complete this with Ken, and then we'll move along. Ken Anderson, would you like to? Ken, by the way, runs our under 60s advanced cancer group. So Ken, would you like to talk to Fraz? We can't hear you. It shows your mic. It shows that your microphone is green, but we can't hear anything, Ken. No. Nada. Well, Ken will maybe Ken will reach out to you because he's our main man for our younger men who are here. That includes John Ivory, Ken, Dennis McGuire, Russ. We got a few of you. You're not alone, and they have their own meeting. I think it's going to be next week. I've made sure you get their list. They're good guys to talk to. So, and Ken just said Ken arrived. I don't know.
Now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I have no idea why not, but I'll leave the video off for the moment. I don't look so good anyway after 7 rounds of chemo. So, but I just wanted to reiterate what Herb stated. There's no way your doctor can possibly know when your days are gone up. So having the conversation with your kids, I think, is not a bad idea. It's hard for a 5-year-old to kind of comprehend such a concept, but I commend you for trying. It's a tough conversation, I'm well aware. But there's no way in heck a doctor knows, whether it's 2 months, 10 months, or 24 months. Like Herb stated, there's so many things that are in the pipeline right now that could change where it is you go. This genomic sequencing could change the treatment protocol for you. Getting that information is important. So I wouldn't be, of course, I go mental all the time. I'm mental today because I just finished my 7th round of chemo. Luckily for me, the bugger is working. Oh, it just shows that I left. Can you guys hear me still?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why, but just hang in there. Sorry to get the news. Sorry you're having to deal with this. So.
And let us just add, Fraz, when Ken says his 2nd round, his 6th or 7th, I lost count. This is the 2nd time because he already did docetaxel like you a couple of years ago.
Gotcha.
So this is not the first. This is not his first jamboree.
Gotcha.
Okay. And I don't know, Dr. Mark, I know you came in a little late. Brad just recently got found that his cancer has spread to his liver. He was diagnosed de novo metastatic in 2016, been through all the regular channels, but basically at a community standard hospital. And now we've just flipped him over to Hopkins to see Dr. Antanarakis. And of course, one of the issues is that people are making predictions based on the liver mets, but we've never been germline or somatically sequenced. So I don't know if there's any thoughts you have. Anyway, Fraz, look, I think you can see we have a lot of knowledge on this call.
Sure.
And we have some good guys, but it's going to be only you can come back. We can't force you to attend. I'll be here to support you, but I want all these guys. Every one of these guys will support you. I think you heard that today too.
Sure,
And they'll
absolutely.
do it in whatever way they can. The under 60 group is this Thursday, evidently, at 7 to 8:30. Okay, that means Mr. Anderson has to send me something to send out. Is that right, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, it's all done.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to like it, but it's all done.
Okay, well, so mark down, it's an hour earlier. His call starts an hour earlier, Fraz, so it'll be at 7 p.m. your time.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe you'll have more news for those guys, and it's a little more chatty. So is there anybody else that would like to say anything to Fraz before we do a roll call?
Yeah, I was curious about the fact, Fraz, if you're taking, and I see you're taking something there, whether you have anything to help you with the anxiety, some kind of anti-anxiety medication, which I take. Like, I'm sure there are others here who take it as well, to help you get through this.
You're gonna laugh. I got a medical marijuana card.
So, so did I. Yes.
The gummies take care of it, and then when that doesn't work, I hop into my my recording studio in my office, and just put the guitar and the amp up to 11 and go at it.
Okay. And the other thing too, where I'm being treated, there's a whole department for social workers, and they're available to me and any patient. So someone like that should be able to help you with communicating with your children.
Okay. Yeah, the social worker actually came in today when I was getting the platelets and some juice. And I talked with her briefly for a little bit. She gave me some information about that and legacy stuff with, like, you know, if you want to do videos and stuff for your kids for down the pike and stuff like that. So, you know, she had some good information. It's tough for me with social workers because, and you guys might find this hokey, I have a guru that I've seen for years, and it kind of helps us through stuff like that as well. But, you know, the social worker was very nice to talk to as well, and we're gonna chat again next time I'm back in the, you know, for like another round of either the chemo or whatever else we're gonna do.
Okay. Well, Hopkins will have all of that, and once I know when even if it's tomorrow, if it turns out you get an appointment tomorrow, I'll help you work out some questions.
Okay.
And one of the things you should be doing is keying right in to Hopkins social work program, and also their palliative care program right now. Palliative care does not mean end of life. It means helping you with your symptoms.
Okay, cool.
And they will be empathetic to your medical marijuana and to anything else. They're good folks. They're good folks.
The strange thing about me right now, and I've got zero pain, and I've got energy, and I'm up doing stuff like I normally would do it, except for going to the gym, of course.
Right.
You know, I'm a little weak in the legs because I lost a lot of muscle. I was just getting ready. I was rehabbing my new hip when Corona hit, so I couldn't finish rehabbing my hip. But I mean, I feel perfectly fine, which is the crazy part about all this. You know, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with me.
Well, you know, that's really good, because that would suggest that you're probably strong enough if we can find the right med for you. Because the other thing that can happen is that we can find the right med, but the men aren't strong enough to take it. And that's happened to me. So that's a really good sign that you're feeling good. But again, I'm not a medical doctor. None of us, I shouldn't say none of us are, because we've got at least one medical doctor on this call, but we can't give you medical advice. We can only tell you what we've seen before.
Sure.
And the medical doctor who is on this call is more used to things like ovaries and wounds and stuff like that. So, you know, but he happens to have prostate cancer that's moving in the wrong direction. So he's with us. So, you know. All right. I'm going to do a roll call, and and let's move along. So here's who I see on the call. Listen carefully, and please tell me if I missed anybody when I've gone through all these names. So Peter Kafka, Jake, John Ivory, Jim Jeffries, Alan, Carl, David, Herb, Jerry, Ken Anderson, Les, Sylvester, Dennis McGuire, Len, Joel, Larry Fish, Bill Franklin, Russ, Peter Monaco, Jim Barnes, Jackie, John A., and Mark Perloe. Anybody that I missed?
Raz.
I got you already.
Okay.
We already talked to you. Okay. So now you're going to have to do the listening part, but listen, because you may pick up some good stuff whilst we go through this. All right. So I got everybody. I'm going to run down and see who needs time today. We got an hour and 10. Peter.
Nothing for me.
Nothing for you. Okay. Jake, anything for you?
No, thank you.
Okay. Jake, are you getting chemo on Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
I did have an episode that I should probably mention, so put me down for a minute.
Okay. Okay. Somebody, guys, can someone monitor the background noise, please, and take care of it for me? Thank you. John Ivory, anything for you today?
Yeah, I'm just here to hear the preaching to the high priest of prostate problems.
Get out of here. Jim Jeffries, can you give us a little update from 2 weeks ago? Not right now, but we'll come back to you.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll
come back to you, Jim.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry.
Okay, I'm just doing a roll call right now. Alan, anything for you today?
Yeah, I'll take 2 minutes, sure.
Okay. Let me just tell you, Fraz, that when the guys give us estimates of time here, it's kind of like the doctor giving you estimates of time. That's how much reliance we put on the time estimates that they give us. Just saying. Carl Forman, anything for you?
Yes.
Okay. David, Muslin, anything for you?
No, thank you.
Okay. Herb, anything you'd like to bring up?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Jerry, Pelfrey, anything for you?
No, thank you. I'm fine.
Thank you, thank you. Ken Anderson, anything for you?
I do have an update.
Okay. Les, anything you'd like to raise? I do have your email, Les. I just haven't gotten to it. I'm sorry.
That's right. No, thank you tonight. Thanks.
Okay, Sylvester, anything for you?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Dennis McGuire. Dennis Career isn't here tonight, so we only have one Dennis. Dennis McGuire, anything for you?
Hi, Rick. Yes, I have an update.
Great. Len, anything for you?
Brief update at the very end, only if you have time.
Okay, Joel. And again, thank you, Joel, so much for sending that note to Dr. A. Anything for you?
You're welcome. Just a PSA update.
Okay. Larry Fish, anything for you today?
No, I'm good, Rick. Thanks.
Thank you. Bill Franklin, anything for you?
I am golden.
What? Holding?
Golden.
Golden. Oh, we know you're golden. We love you.
No, I'm good. I don't need anything.
That's great. If you're golden, that's good enough for me. Russ Smith, anything for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna need about 45 minutes because I want to make this call meeting all about me. So guarantee I'll finish it under 45 minutes. No, the truth is I have maybe just a few minutes. It's very quick.
Okay. Peter Monaco, anything for you?
No, Rick, I'm good.
Okay, you don't want to give Fraz some advice on how to rehab that hip?
No, but that's going very well, thank you.
Good, good, good. Jim Barnes, anything for you?
Yes, I'd like a minute.
Okay, Jackie, I'm sure you have something. We'll come to you. We'll come to you early.
Yeah, I do have something, but I don't want to take that much time.
Well, you're entitled to it, so we'll come to you, John. Anything? I was going to say John Antanarakis. I got the wrong, but I got the wrong nationality. Anything for you?
Antonucci, no, next week, not today, though.
Okay, and Mark, anything for you? You're muted, Dr. Mark. You unmuted and then you mute. There you go.
Okay, so brief update, 1 minute.
Okay. All right. So we got quite a few guys. We'll get cracking. Jake, tell us what's going on.
Well, I'm due for my 12th weekly infusion of chemo tomorrow. And I'm scheduled for a port next week, which makes me nervous as hell. But the thing that was most concerning to me was the other day, I went out to get a flu shot, and I came back and we have like 6 steps from the foyer to my second split level, and I got to the last step and I fell down. My legs just gave out from under me. So that is very concerning to me, and it makes me not want to go out even more than I usually don't want to go out. So that's it. My PSA is I'm on docetaxel, and I've been on it 90 some days, and it's gone from 186 now it's down to 107.
Okay.
Pretty good. Not 50%, not a 50% response, but close.
Have you talked to your doc about your legs giving out on you?
No, I haven't mentioned it.
Okay, you got to mention it.
She'll say you need a scan, you need to do this, you need to do that. And oh no, I have not said anything to her. I'll tell her on Wednesday.
I'm turning this over to my team to talk to Jake.
Jake, don't sweat the port. It's a very simple operation. You don't even need anesthetic. They can do it without, keeping you awake. You don't have to go out for it. It's very quick, and it saves a hell of a lot of poking around in your arms and stuff. It's you'll find it much better. You'll have to skip a week of treatment because it takes a week for it to heal up. But then once you get going, it's a breeze. So.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about I had to go down twice. I had to go down and get a COVID test on Friday, and then my surgery scheduled for Tuesday. My biggest problem is getting there.
And do you have grab bars in your shower?
No, I have a shower door that I hang on to when I'm getting in and out.
Get someone to get your kid or someone to put grab bars in your shower. We want you to do it, okay? Especially if you find yourself getting weak in the legs. You don't want to go down in a bathtub or a shower.
Yeah. And in fact, I've actually started using a walker. My son insisted, and he bought me a walker a couple of weeks ago, and I actually used it when I went to the doctor last time.
Okay.
But it's in the car, so.
Jake, do you remember that son of yours that took all your tools?
It's my other son, believe it or not, yeah.
Okay. Well, you tell the son that took all your tools that you need him to come pay you a visit and install some bath rails for you.
I do have one on the toilet that helps me push up from the toilet. But shower bars, I never even thought about that. But
right.
Thanks, Peter.
Anybody want to talk to Jake about sharing his news with his doc?
Definitely tell your doc, Jake. But
I will. I'll tell her on Wednesday.
But honestly, I hike like crazy, and I get up in the middle of the night and I just about fall down. I'm either off orientation. In fact, when I came back from the Northwest, I didn't know where the hell I was. So, I mean, I'd be cautious about it, but just, take precautions so you don't hurt yourself. So, I'd say do exercise and stop smoking, but that's not going to happen. So I'd be wasting my breath, I guess.
Yeah. It seems like where I had the problem is at the very top step. I have railings that I can hang on to and pull myself up basically from step to step. But as the final step, the railing runs out, and then I don't have anything to hang on to, and that's when I fell. My leg just went. So,
How about the nasty hands? Is that cleared up at all?
Pardon me?
Your nasty swelling in the hands?
Oh.
Yeah, it's better.
It's better. Yeah, it's still there. There's definitely a mark.
What did your doc say about it?
It's not as red. She says
Jake,
she
what
thought
did your doc?
about the hand.
Yeah.
She didn't know for sure, but she said she thought that they're having a hard time finding a vein with me, so that's why I had to get the port. And so a couple of weeks ago they did it in my hand, which they've done before with no problem. But apparently she thinks my vein collapsed while I was getting the chemo, and that it just leaked under the skin. It didn't have any place to go. It couldn't get into my veins, so it just followed the course, the path of least resistance as liquids normally do. So, and that's what made her decide that you need to get a port. So, and what she said makes sense. It may not be 100% right, but I think she's on the right track. Does that make sense?
It's there.
Come here. I am here. I'm putting on my camera. I have a little extra duty. Can you see my buddy here? I'm dog sitting this week for some friends. And so I just got to keep one eye on him. I think he wants to go out, but he's going to have to wait till the end of the meeting. Okay. So let's move along. Anything else? Anybody want to say to Jake just before we move on? Okay, Jim.
Have an extension done on your banister on that last stair. When they come to put the rails in the bathroom, have them put some sort of an extension so you don't have that problem again.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah, and I'm happy with your numbers, Jake.
Yeah.
Even though it's not quite 50%, it's still going down. So hopefully keep banging on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, so let's talk with Jim Jeffries. Jim, I think when we spoke to you 2 weeks ago, we were hoping that you might get to see Dr. Gainesman at Fox Chase. Where are you?
Scheduled to see him on Wednesday morning, so a couple
Terrific.
of days from now. So I do have an appointment with him for a second opinion.
Terrific. I think you'll like him, and if your insurance allows, if it were me, I'd be making him my #1 doc. Your situation and Fraz's situation are somewhat similar. The doc that you're seeing has not given you bad treatment, but he's given you standard of care treatment, and I think Gainesman will give you better than standard of care treatment, and that's what we're trying to find for you. Tell us what else, anything else to report?
Well, I had the EBIS scope, and I was was somewhat upbeat when the doctor who did the procedure said, "I don't see any cancer at all in your tissues." Then the oncologist said, "Well, gee, I think we're going to have to get some more tissue." So I'm scheduled now, pending for a median sinus. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
On the 13th.
Yeah.
I'll talk with Dr. Gatzman in the interim.
Well, I think that if they're going to keep doing tests, if it were me, I'd want them to get them done going out at Fox Chase, if it were me. Because I just think that not just the tests and the procedure, but the way they're interpreted is going to be at a different level. So I think I mean, I'm just dealing with a similar situation for a close buddy who has blood cancer. You're going to have to come to a decision as to who you want your main doc to be. Obviously, you can't do that until you see Gainesman, but I think that's going to be coming down the pike. Anybody else want to talk to Jim about switching to a GU med-onc from whoever your regular med-onc was? Has anybody else started with a general practice medical oncologist and then had to switch to a GU medical oncologist? John, do you want to talk about that a little bit for Jim?
I had to do that because Rick would never leave me alone if I didn't. I started out with a urologist who, looking back on it, was very lackadaisical and took plenty of time about everything. And the medical oncologist on that team was sort of similar. And when you guys got me over to Dr. Petrolak at Yale, all of a sudden I had someone like myself that didn't want to sit around and wait all the time and was ready to really go at it. And my treatment became much more aggressive and much more satisfactory to me. And I've been lucky not to have very much side effects. So, you know, I don't know how things are going to turn out in the long run, but it's a lot more satisfactory to me and a lot more active treatment since I did that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, any last words of advice for Jim on how to handle the situation with when you've got maybe a second opinion doc that you like better than your doc and you want to make a switch? Inside, how about from the insider track, Dr. Mark?
Well, I was going to ask the same thing because I'm looking at 3 different medical oncologists and I'm getting some different views and not sure how one decides and at what point you can call upon someone who may not be the main one to reconsult and re-advise you. So I don't have an answer. I think the important thing is to let whoever the doc is know that you are getting a second opinion and share whatever information if they want to get that.
I think that is definitely good advice. Keep everybody appraised of what you're doing. Anyone else have any guidance on how to navigate a tricky situation with more than one doc? You're a quiet lot tonight. Well, Jim, I mean, I know what I would do, but I cannot influence you. You're going to have to make your call on Dr. Gainesman. Feel free to call us if you want to run through it before we're now back to a meeting every week. Calendar's back regular, so we'll be meeting again next Tuesday. And if there's anything you need in between now and then, just let us know. But I think, you know, you have a good handle on what's going on and what you got to do.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure. Jackie Moon, we haven't heard from you for way too long. And we would like to know what's going on and how you're doing and how we can help you. Are you there, Jackie? Yes. No. Yes.
I am here. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Well, it has been far too long. I'm now under the impression that I really got to grab a hold of my treatment and take care of it myself. Just real shortly. I've been getting chemo from the doctor. I had 3 rounds of different ones. The last one was a mixture of cisplatin and something else, and it really worked great. And after the break, though, I finally got the chemo neuropathy and went back to the doctor, and he said he no longer has anything that he can do for us. So he gave me a referral to go to Stanford, but after talking with Ken, I changed that, and I'm going to go to UCSF to see, hopefully, Dr. Thong. All the paperwork is in their hands right now. I'm waiting to see what they say.
Well, let me say that if there was one doc that I would want to treat me, it would be Larry Fong.
Okay.
He is the best. I love that guy.
Great.
And be sure to tell him I send my love and said hello and send my love to him.
I will do that.
He's very difficult to get to see these days because he runs the immunotherapy clinic and he's doing so much research. Just for your information, Larry is the guy that was the principal investigator on Provenge many years ago. And I know him personally because he's treated some very good friends of mine. And I think he's not just super smart, he's incredibly compassionate. So the fact that you have been able to get to see him is incredible. How did you manage that? Is there a trial that?
Well, no, I have not, sorry, I have not seen him yet, but the paperwork is in their hands. And that's the doc. They asked me who I wanted to see, and that's who I asked for.
Well, you may or you may not, because he doesn't often take on new patients, but he may do. If not, don't commit to any doc without talking to us, if you don't mind. Okay? And
yes,
we'll
sir.
tell you if they give you 3 or 4 names, if they give you a choice, tell us, and don't let them just assign you.
Okay.
You know, there are some other good docs there. Rahul Agarwal, Rahul Agarwal, we like a lot. And then the lady with the funny, who's the lady with the funny name, Peter? What's her name? Do you remember? It's just gone. Hannah is with an H. Dr. No, Peter's trying to remember. I'm trying to remember. I can see her face. I just can't remember. It's first name's with an H and the second name begins with an A.
Okay. I'll just put lady with a funny name.
Hala Borno. I was close with the A. Dr. Hala, Halaborno. Hala Borno. One of the issues is that there's been a lot of rotation. I think my second choice might be Terry Friedlander. He is really a great guy. Terry Friedlander.
Okay.
So that's another one. So tell us, where's the cancer right now, and you know, what's your PSA doing, and all of those good things.
So the PSA is pretty low because of the cisplatin and the last round of chemo. It's below 20, and you know, everything really went well. I was going for 3 days in a row, 6 hours a day, every 3 weeks for that, and I did 6 rounds of that, or 6 weeks.
Okay.
So, we were very surprised because he was talking about putting me on immunotherapy once we got back from the holiday from the chemotherapy. That, you know, he basically threw his hands up in the air and said, well, there's nothing I can do for you. I mean, we were surprised. So, here's the drug that he wants to try me on. And I can spell it. I can't pronounce it. Would you like me to do that?
Yep.
It's spelled IPILUMUMAB. and it's mixed with NIVOLUMAB.
Okay, so let me tell you, and who is that that's thinking of doing that? Your old
So
doc?
yes, that's my general oncologist. That is my main doctor now. And he said that those were not approved by FDA at this time. And that if I did do them, it might cancel me out from any other trial drugs.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit. The drugs are called ipilimumab and nivolumab, Opdivo, and what's the commercial name for Ipi? I should know. I've just forgotten. What's the commercial name for Ipi?
Yervoy.
Yervoy. Yeah, thank you. So Ipi and Yervoy, Ipi and nivolumab, the reason they use them together is because prostate cancer cells don't have a lot of T cells in the tumor. So they're known as cold tumors. So you start to get them to respond to something like nivolumab or pembrolizumab, which is Keytruda alone. And what they're finding is when they use them together, the Ipi increases the number of T cells in the tumor, and then the nivolumab can do its work. So they've been looking at using them in combination, and there are trials out there doing that. I do think it makes sense for you to see a GU med-onc and to talk to them about what they think about that. Somebody like Larry would be perfect, but any of the docs, Agarwal is going to be good for that. They're all going to be good for that.
Okay.
But the idea of combining Ipi and nivolumab is getting some traction. Anybody else want to talk about that?
Well, side effects can be very serious when they're both combined.
Correct.
What kind of side effects?
Autoimmune type of side effects. The body turns against itself. Colitis, in the case of the intestinal tract. With nivolumab, we've seen attacks on the thyroid gland. Thyroid starts gyrating up and down. You can have serious skin reactions. Yeah, just make sure you read, talk to the doc about it, all the side effects, and read about it in the patient package insert.
Sorry guys, I gotta get this hound outside for about 2 minutes so he can pee. He's driving me nuts here. Jack, is there anyone else? As soon as we're done with Jackie, I'm going to turn over to Len for about three or 4 minutes, or maybe the rest of the meeting, because he always does such a great job. Anybody else want to talk to Jackie?
Yeah, I'd like to just say I'm happy Jackie's going to UCFS. He's got a med-onc that, is probably a nice person, but isn't giving him good directions. So I think you made a good call. So hopefully you'll get good information, and also listen really hard to when they tell you, some of the side effects for that particular combo. You need to know what the risks are.
Is it approved by the FDA or is it not? And will it cancel me out from any other treatments that may or may not be better? That's your
question. So let me tell you, both drugs are approved, but they're not approved for prostate cancer. That's not strictly true. Have you had any genomic sequencing done, Jackie?
No.
Okay. Well, again, we've got to see genomic sequencing. If we saw genomic sequencing, it's possible that they may be approved in your case. Certainly the nivolumab, possibly the IPI. We don't know,
Okay.
but you've got to get, and one of the first things they'll do at UCSF for sure is to do genomic sequencing. You know, the fact that these docs don't do it is criminal, because it's now the protocol that they have to do these. They should be doing this.
Okay.
That said, will it rule you out? Hard to say. It could rule you out from clinical trials. It all depends on the trial. That's why you've got to take guidance from another doc. Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure. And Jackie, do us a favor. Keep coming back, man, so we can guide you
Yeah.
through this. All right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. And again, you can reach out to me. You know that.
Yes, sir. I do.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Len, how about talking to Alan Moskowitz, and I'll be right back. Okay?
Okay, we'll see you later, Rick.
I'll be back in like 3 minutes. I've just got to go on the outside. Come on.
All right, so I guess I should talk.
Yes.
So I just a quick update. I had a prostatectomy 7 years ago, 2013. In 2016, I needed follow-up radiation, along with 6 months of hormone therapy. Everything was good for a period of time, and then by 2017, the PSA started to creep up, and it's gone up a little at a time. The doubling time is actually increased, so getting better. It used to be 8 months, 9 months. Now in the last year, it's been about 14, 15 months, in that range. And so PSA is just under 3. And I've reported maybe a couple of months ago that the PSA plateaued for a while at 2.3 for a period of 6 months. And folks here said, well, it's going to pick up again. And they were right. Anyway, I did go to 2 medical oncologists, at least via video. One, I've been to them both before, one at Sloan Kettering and the other at Mount Sinai. And independently, I asked them, you know, what do I do? Do I start treatment? I've had multiple PSMA scans, one Axelman scan, no cancer is found. You know, do I do another PSMA? Do I not? Do I start treatment? And they both said, no need to start treatment. You can let your PSA migrate up to 5 or even higher, as long as the doubling time stays favorable. And we talked about it. I mean, I'm not eager to go on ADT. I probably could tolerate it, but I'm trying to hold it off. And one of them did suggest that perhaps in a year, or maybe when my PSA is closer to 5 or 4.5, I could try to get into another trial or do another PSMA scan and maybe take one more shot at seeing if I can find the source of that cancer and then perhaps irradiate it. I don't know how optimistic I am that I'll find it after 3 times looking for it, but that's sort of my plan at the moment. The Sloan Kettering doctor did suggest that perhaps in 6 months, I might do maybe a whole body MRI and just see if any imaging shows anything. Of course, it's all predicated on the progress of the PSA, but it was another look. I mean, you all may know that not every prostate cancer expresses that PSMA antigen. I could be one of those who, whose cancer doesn't show it. And so I don't want to pin all my hopes on PSMA technology nor on the Axeman technology. And so the MRI would be just sort of a backup approach to find things. So that's where I am. I'm sort of in, I call it active surveillance, but with a high PSA. And I'll take any thoughts from anyone on that, or if there's anything else I should be doing.
What was your current PSA, Alan?
Right now, it's the 2.92 as of about a week or two ago.
And you said your doubling time is?
About 14 or 15 months, 16 months. It sort of depends how many data points you want to use, but in that range.
Yeah, that's very slow growing. That's good. What was your Gleason score?
7, 4 plus 3.
Okay.
I mean, my pathology was good way back. I had no issues. I really thought I was going to be done with the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I drew an unlucky straw.
I mean, you had a prostatectomy.
Right.
You had radiation therapy.
That's right.
Yeah.
3 years later.
All right. So it's unlikely that there's any residual normal prostate tissue accounting for the PSA. So.
Well, yeah, you know, I asked the doctors about that, and they both sort of said that you know, using 7-year-old tissue, which would be around actually, is probably not going to be very helpful. And so, you know, they're probably right, I guess, only because the cancer now that's still remaining might be the more aggressive type, for example, or maybe it's slightly different than what was originally pulled out, plus the tissue was old.
And what was your PSA level when your PSMA scan was negative?
Most recently, it was 2.3.
And the PSMA was negative at that level.
That's right.
That's very unusual. So you might be right. Maybe you're just not producing PSMA. So the full body MRI sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah. Now my Axeman PSA was about 2, and the original PSMA test I had at NIH, that was only 0.5. So that one I accept, that was a long shot to find it. So yeah, so I guess waiting to a PSA of maybe, I don't know, 4, 4.5. At this rate, my PSA should be just over 5 in a year. I'm not sure I'll wait a full year, but you know, 6 months maybe or something like that. I worry about the effects though of all those scans. You know, particularly the, you know, it's not, if it's a CT, if I did another PSMA with a CAT scan, you know, it is an X-ray. MRI, you know, I'm building up that wonderful gadolinium in my brain. I mean, there's all these downsides, but I'm figuring one more shot at it might be enough.
Well, why don't you ask them if they can do the MRI without contrast agent? You won't get the gadolinium.
I could, but would it be as effective as in finding it?
Some docs think it's marginal, the difference.
Really?
I think, Rick, you remember Mac Roach's talk in the recent webinar? I think he said, I think it was him that said, doesn't really make a big difference.
No, it was Dr. Margolis.
Oh, Margolis. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, but also Mac addressed it too. Moyad brought up gadolinium with Mac, and I think Mac said the same thing as well, Peter. Both of them. You know, that you should know that I think it's about 30% of men do not produce PSMA. So it's a pretty high number. Does anybody remember the actual number?
I think it's about 10%. That's what I was told at NIH. This is Alan.
I thought it was higher than that, but I could definitely be wrong.
I just listened recently to a talk given by Michael Morris at Sloan Kettering and about PSMA imaging. and he said, I think his figure was about 15 to 20%. But he said, you know, it's not a all or nothing situation. Some of your cancer cells could be producing PSMA, and some might not in the same person.
Okay. All right. So that's good.
So, I mean, I gather the issue really is that is around whether your PSA, what's the expression that Alan Edel uses? PSA something, PSMA, you make PSMA or you don't make PSMA. There's an expression for it.
I think he uses the term avid.
No, it's not added. It'll come back to me. But anyway, I guess that's the issue. Yeah, I mean, if you're not, then I think it's not going to, obviously anything that's PSMA driven is not going to help you. And, you know, we need to know that. I mean, you do, that's why they'll always do a test first before they do any PSMA treatment, to see if you're avid, PSMA avid.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when I did this last one in March at Sloan Kettering, I specifically asked about doing that test, and they said, nope, they don't have the facility or to do that. You know, that was the end of it. And likewise at NIH. Now, maybe they do something different now at NIH. It's been a couple of years since I was there. So, you know, maybe standard practice in the facilities that you're used to, but at least in conjunction with a clinical trial at Sloan, they didn't offer it.
I'm surprised, because usually, certainly as part of clinical trials, they want to know if you're PSMA avid or not.
It would make sense. What you say is very logical.
Yeah. All right. Well, I missed a lot of the conversation, but I
can tell you, Alan has a very slow growing, slow rising PSA, 14 to 15 months doubling time. So that's the main issue.
Rick, I'll just add that I did see Dr. O at Mount Sinai along with my regular medical oncologist, and they both sort of agreed on the next steps, and that there was no urgency to go on ADT. I know you were always curious if I was going to see Dr. O again, and I did, and he offered to continue to sort of consult with me every 6 months, so I can have both MOs and you know, see where they agree and where they differ.
That's great, and maybe you and Len can schedule your appointments at the same time. Have a cup of coffee. All right, we got to move on. Sorry, we got to move on here. Oh, quick one.
Yeah, I'm cutting it very short. What I wanted to talk about, I'll defer the majority of it for next week's discussion about clinical trials, my experience with them. But the other thing to quickly talk about is that for the longest time, I've been complaining about edema in my left leg, and nobody's been giving me any answers until recently. And I went to a vascular doctor who did a Doppler, and I previously had a partial blood clot, and the technician didn't find any evidence of that, which is, you know, par for the course over the last couple of months. But what the vascular doctor did say, he said, well, and I mentioned to him about the surgery that I had. They removed the prostate and they removed 27 lymph nodes. He says, aha, you probably have lymphedema because all those lymph nodes were removed. It's like, how come nobody else has ever even mentioned that? So I am following up next week with a lymphedema specialist, where I guess they give massages and whatever. So just to throw that out there, you have to just keep asking questions and asking questions. Why is this happening? And now maybe hopefully I have an answer.
You know, what was your, you had experience recently with edema and a possible solution. What was that?
Yeah, I still have a little bit of it. Are you wearing the support socks at all, Carl?
Yes, that has also been helpful. And my primary care doctor put me on a water pill with potassium, which he was going to try for 30 days. So I'm in the middle of that. I'm meeting with him next week to decide. And I don't think that's done anything for me. So,
Yeah,
but
that
yes,
didn't,
the support
that didn't
socks.
do anything for me. The water pill didn't do anything for me, but mine's gone down substantially just on its own. I exercise, I run on a tread, or at least I walk fast on a treadmill every day, and that's helped. But I'm doing acupuncture now, and that's helping a little bit.
Okay.
Peter, didn't we come up with some aha moment as to what caused the edema as well, though?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, I think in Peter's case, it may have been contributed to by the lack of a steroid while he was getting chemotherapy, because one of the reasons they give steroids is to prevent that type of inflammation.
Yep.
And Ken had mentioned a couple of weeks ago about using vitamin B6, which was recommended by one of his oncologists. So I started using that, and there really hasn't been much of a benefit.
Okay, well, listen, I'm glad that we may be on the track to find a solution here. I mean, that's really excellent. So you just keep us posted and let us know what the lymphedema people do for you. I can tell you that going back to Dr. Munster, because she does know that one of the best treatments for lymphedema is exercise.
I'm back at the gym now that the gyms are open here in New Jersey. It opened on September 8th, and I've been going 5 out of 7 days since then.
Okay.
Yeah, a friend of mine had bad lymphedema from breast cancer from removal of lymph nodes in her arms, and this is music to Rick's ears. She joined a rowing club, and it's really helped her along with the compression sleeve.
Okay. Well, I got my rowing machine arrived today. It's still in the box, so I'm very excited that I'll be able to get back on the erg sooner rather than later.
I'm still 6 weeks away from mine.
Carl, let's talk about clinical trials next time because it's very worthwhile.
Yes.
Okay. When we got more time, I'll remember and we'll schedule you earlier in the conversation. Let's go to Dennis McGuire.
Hi, yeah, so I met with Alicia Morgans last week at Northwestern to get her opinion on next treatment. So Rick, thanks for that recommendation. Good meeting with her. So Dr. Morgan's recommendation was that I definitely need new systemic treatment. Then we talked a lot about sequencing of those treatments. We ran the gamut from chemo to clinical trials, Zytiga, Provenge. She believes that for me, this is the best time to consider a clinical trial. The reason being is it will maximize my treatment options as you look at all the sequencing ahead of me in terms of treatment. She thinks I can do chemo or Zytiga if my condition gets worse, but she doesn't believe I'm ready for that. And this is all consistent with what my oncologist at Wisconsin Carbone is saying also.
Okay. Did she have any trials in mind?
Well, there's two options I'm considering. One is at Wisconsin. I think I mentioned it before. It's a It's a cortisol receptor antagonist.
Right.
The goal is that it would figure out a way to extend the life of Xtandi and eliminate the AR resistance. It's a late stage phase 1 where they have the dosage and they're expanding participants. Dr. Morgan thinks that's a reasonable trial. The second one I'm considering is at Northwestern. This one I'm a little nervous about. It's also a late stage phase 1, and it's an antibody drug conjugate, which is combined with a chemotherapy that's used for lymphoma. Interestingly enough, the lead investigator on this trial is the guy at UCSF, Rahul.
Oh, Rahul Agarwal. Okay.
Yeah, he's the lead guy on this trial. But I'm concerned about the chemotherapy because it does have all the toxicity of docetaxel and cabazitaxel, but they soften it in their description by saying that with the antibody drug conjugate, it does not affect the normal cells and tissue. But I don't know.
And nobody really talked about an immunotherapy trial. I know in the past one of the trials you were thinking about was Keytruda with a vaccine of some sort.
Yeah, that is definitely available at Wisconsin. But I'm a little concerned about the toxicity of Keytruda, as was mentioned earlier on the call with immunotherapies. I think so. I've got to sort through these issues. I think the biggest issue for me is going to be if I do a trial, how long do I give it to see results before I move on?
So who would like to speak to this issue around how to choose the right trial and how long to give the trial? Anybody on the call want to address that?
Dennis, do you know what in the monoclonal antibody trial with the chemo drug, do you know what the target antigen is for the antibody on the cancer cell? Like, is it PSMA or something different?
No, it's not PSMA. I don't know exactly, Len.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the trial, but I'm guessing that it's an antibody with a little warhead attached to it, and that antibody seeks out only the cancer cell, some antigen, some protein on the cancer cell. So there should be low toxicity. It's very targeted.
Yeah, that's definitely what the consent form says. That's the whole point of the antibody drug conjugate. But they've only had like 15 people use the drug. So they don't really have a good sample to say how people have responded to it.
Right.
That's what concerns me a little bit.
So I think I heard you say there are two trials. They were both late state phase 1. Was there anything more advanced, phase 2 or 3?
No, nothing that I would reasonably qualify for right now.
So
Couple of things, Len. Let me just understand. So this monoclonal antibody is going to target the chemo just to the prostate cancer cells. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Okay.
And the chemo drug itself is approved for lymphoma.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah.
So here's my concern, and I don't know if anybody raised it, whether Dr. M raised it or anybody else, but any phase 1 trial requires a lot of testing weekly. And I don't see how you could do a trial for Rahul unless you were willing to move to UCSF, because usually they don't allow he may make an exception, but they usually don't allow those tests to be done locally. Unless Carbone is participating.
No, in this case, this one's at Northwestern.
Okay.
So it's Dr. Morgan's colleague, David Vanderweel.
Right, we've heard him talk. I'm sorry. So what was the trial that Agarwal was doing?
That one. He's the lead investigator, but Northwestern participates.
Oh, okay. So, but that still means you've got to go. You're going to have to drive down to Northwestern each week for your tests.
Yeah, the way it works is for the first week you have to be there 3 consecutive days, and then you go back once a week for the first 4 weeks, and then it's a chemo cycle. Every 3 weeks you get infused.
But they don't want to be testing. They don't want you coming in to do blood tests during the chemo cycle in the interim.
Not after the first month.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's hard to know. I mean, I know Rahul well enough that if you wanted to speak to him, I could arrange that. But I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. I mean, I don't certainly have the knowledge. I mean, Herb, I mean, if you were trying to pick a clinical trial, how would you go about doing it?
I mean, I have to look at the basic science behind it because it's a phase 1 trial, right? So this is a dose escalation toxicity trial at this point, not an efficacy trial. And so, yes, if it made no sense, and Dennis, I'm happy to look, if I knew the trial numbers, we can look them up and sort of see what the logic is behind the trial. That's how I would approach it. I mean, I don't know enough about it because of what you described, the cortisol trial, that I don't understand either.
Right.
But I think that more information wouldn't hurt us.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that cortisol trial before, that enzalutamide with a steroid, right? With the idea that it reactivates the androgen receptors. Isn't that the concept of that one, Dennis?
Yeah, that's exactly the concept, because you do continue to stay on Xtandi during the trial.
Well, look, if it helps you, Dennis, I'd be happy to connect you and Herb by email after the meeting, and ship whatever info, clinical trial info they've given you, along with the clinical trial numbers to him, and I'll connect you after the meeting.
I would very much appreciate that if Herb has some time.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the lab is sort of still mostly shut because of COVID, so I have plenty of time. So I'm happy to do it.
Would you do me a favor, just to save time? would you send Dennis a message, a personal message in the chat window?
Right, in the chat window. I will do that right now.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, thank you. All right, Dennis, we're going to keep moving because we got 10 minutes left and a bunch of people to visit with yet.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ken Anderson, what's your news?
I just wanted to give like a brief update. I won't take too much time. You know, after my 7th round, actually, you know, I had the 7th round, but truly the effect of the 6th round has brought my PSA from in July from 41 down to 23. So I'm kind of like Jake. It's not quite 50%, but it's still moving down. I have no idea how many rounds of chemo I'm going to do. As far as side effects, you know, 3rd, 4th, and 5th day tend to be buggers. You know, I don't really have, I mean, other than pretty big fatigue issues, I don't really have any other side effects. So that's pretty much it. You know, after my 6th round of chemo, I went on a 9.5-mile hike up in the Olympic Peninsula. So I can say I'm tolerating it pretty well.
Well, the question I have is how much the hike, you haven't done number 7 yet, or did you say you just did number 7?
You know, I just did number 7 on Friday, so I'm off to dexamethasone high. Right now I'm dealing with, I don't know if you would call it a high, but it does tend to give me a little pick-me-up for a day. So, you know, at the moment I'm just kind of dealing with that 3 to 5 day period of fatigue, as Peter and Jake both full know. So,
And so how far was that hike?
it was 9.5 miles, but it was 2,700 feet in elevation gain. It was a doozy. For me, it was a doozy. It was 3 days after chemo.
Did you
Well, if
lose
you're
any
on
Alaska?
the dexamethasone high, why don't you just get in a hermetically sealed van and drive around Washington?
I could smoke pot if that would help.
Oh boy, that's right. You know, that's probably that. Yeah, can you imagine? As they say, this guy's Trump on steroids now. Can you imagine Trump on steroids? Oh my God.
He is on steroids.
He is. He's on the guy. Bloody hell. You give that guy dexamethasone. No wonder. I'm surprised he wasn't trying to fly around, flapping his wings and trying to fly around Walter Reed. Never mind driving around in a motorcade.
It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it just occurred to me. I mean, we know what dexamethasone does to you. I'm glad they didn't give him dexamethasone before the debate. Nobody would have gotten a word in. Has anybody ever tried talking to Jake on the evening of his dexamethasone other than me?
Well, I have.
Have you? How was it?
You know, he was in a good mood for sure.
I was going to say, I'm usually a joy to talk to on those nights.
I would agree. So, I did have one comment for Dennis. Dennis, I'd like to hear about the clinical trial that, you're talking about. I'd like to pose it to Paul and see if he has any comments, only because, I'm not that far different than your position at the moment, other than I'm doing, of course, however many rounds of chemo until I can't do it anymore, I guess. His comment was until it's too toxic, and I guess I have to live with that. So
Yeah, let's catch up, Ken. I would like to talk to you. Yep, it's interesting. What both these doctors tell me is, maximize your options now before you go into approved treatments.
Maximize your options now. Well, Paul's comment to me was he wanted something more elegant than chemo, and I said, hell yes. Well, what is it? Don't keep it a secret, for crimity's sakes. Tell me what it is. But nothing at the moment. He did pose 3 clinical trials to me as possibilities, and I can share those with you. I think they're pretty toxic in general. They're not phase 1 trials, which I would also be skeptical about a dose escalation trial, unless I had a lot more information.
Yeah.
Does he not think that docetaxel is working for you, Ken?
No, it is working.
Yeah,
It just kicks my, just like you, it kicks my ass.
Oh.
But then after about 4 or 5 days, I'm okay. I can go out and do the things I like to do. So I get like 21 days of not too bad, or pretty dang good actually. As you get that little questionnaire when you go into your oncologist office that asks you how you're feeling, and I can honestly say 2 years ago I was kind of in the middle. Today I go in there and I'm circling pretty close to high, that I'm feeling okay, and I can say mentally I'm doing fine, not great, but better after the chemo wears off. So anyway, I'm taking up a lot of time, Rick.
Hey, Ken, interesting point. Northwestern, despite the card trial, they also believe in retrying docetaxel before going to cabazitaxel.
Ah, good.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Well, it works.
Yeah.
So I don't want to do it forever, though, for criminy's sakes.
Let me cut in here because we've got to keep moving. But Dennis, would you be good enough to copy Ken on whatever you send to Herb, please?
Yep, for sure.
Ken_Anderson@ancan.org.
Yep.
And I'll send it on to Paul and see what he says.
And just if you would copy it, and so Ken can look. And Dennis, come on Thursday to the under 60s guys.
I will.
And maybe we can, unpack that a little more, get into a little more deep discussion about this, since it's clearly of interest. Mr. Harker, welcome. This is the advanced call, not the low intermediate call. As I recall, you're a low intermediate guy.
Well, I had a 4K test, and if I can pass that by.
That's for the low intermediate or the active surveillance on Wednesday.
Okay, even if it came out high risk?
Yes, even if it came out high risk, unless you're a Gleason 8 or you have a PSA over 20, which I don't think you have. This is not the right call for you, but you're welcome to listen. Okay.
All right.
It's not the we don't discuss those tests, but Peter will be discussing that next Monday night. Peter?
Yes.
Next Monday night. And there's an active surveillance call on Wednesday.
Okay, so what's on Monday?
Same time, 8 o'clock.
Okay, so what?
Oh, you're in Phoenix. It's 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. Okay.
On Wednesday and Monday.
I gotta move on.
All right.
James.
All right.
Gotta move on.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim Barnes.
Hi guys. Hey, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for making me so much well informed in the doctor appointments that I go on. Just participating in these things has been really great. Tomorrow I'm going to see my radiation oncologist for a planning session. I just wanted to ask a quick question to everybody. If anybody had anything I should know going into that or look for going into that. The radiation planning.
Give the guys a quick reminder, Jim, of yourself. Just give them the elevator summary of your situation.
Oh, I Gleason 9. I have metastatic prostate cancer. It's cancer showed up in my L4 vertebrae, and that's what they're looking at treating my prostate and my vertebrae in my back with radiation.
And you're on Lupron and
Elgard, yes. Right.
But as yet they haven't put you on abiraterone.
I just I've been prescribed. Is it Xandy? Is that
No, that's enzalutamide.
okay? That's what I have a prescription. I have, and I've been approved. It's not going to cost me any money to get it. So I'm looking at starting that after my daughter's wedding, and then starting the radiation as well.
Well, the only thing again, and I seem to think we mentioned this to you, the clinical trials suggest that enzalutamide should follow abiraterone. And so, and I seem to think we sent you, I linked you to something on that before. Enzalutamide is fine. Jake, you started on enzalutamide, correct? Yep.
What was the question again, Rick? I'm sorry.
You did enzalutamide first, correct?
After bicalutamide, yes.
Yeah, but between enzalutamide and abiraterone, you did enzalutamide first.
Correct. 30 months I got out of it.
And you got how many months?
30.
30. Anybody else do enzalutamide first before abiraterone?
Yeah, I did, Rick, but I can tell you I only got like 4 months. Really 3 months and then 3 months of rises. So clinical trial does show that Abby is a better drug to start first. So I'd probably ask your doctor why she or he is starting you on enzalutamide. Not that it's a bad drug. It works completely different, but I would still ask the question, is there a reason? I found enzalutamide got to my head real quick, and it was hard for me to function on enzalutamide.
So did David.
I'm worried about that.
Yeah, David Muslin did too, right, David?
Big time.
Yeah.
Do you have that trial, Ken?
I can probably dig it up. I can dig it up.
Can you send it to Jim and just copy me on it? I think I've got it somewhere too, but it would be a big help if you could.
I can. But to answer your question about radiation, what are they radiating? They're radiating your...
Hold on.
Okay.
It would be a big help for Jim if you're going to go to your doctor to go to him with that clinical trial and ask him why. In other words, rather than just saying, well, the clinical trial said da-da-da-da-da, when you go to the doctors and you've got a clinical trial in hand that is what you're asking about, you come from a much stronger position.
What day were you going again, Jim?
I'm going to see my radiology oncologist tomorrow.
Yeah, but
you're not dealing with this issue right away. It's not like tomorrow.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. So we have a little bit of time, but we'll get it to you. And if you don't have it next Tuesday, you'll remind us and we'll do it. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what should you ask? What should Jim be asking his radonc?
Well, you cut me off.
I cut you off because we won't finish with the last one. That's why you got to finish with one thing before you move to the next.
Okie dokie. So, Jim, the whole radiation thing is the intent to get rid of the gland, or what are they doing? And are they going to do both at the same time, or any ideas? That's my understanding. Is they're going to radiate the prostate and all four vertebrae. And who's doing the work? Is it which hospital or which radonc is doing it? Do you know? It's the Hillman Cancer Center here in Pittsburgh. Dr. Olson. Or his technician. Yeah. The questions would be, how many grays? How large is your prostate? There's a series of questions you can ask him, and he should have the answer to all of them because he should have already done scans. So, definitely get fiduciary markers, though, if they're going to go in and blast your prostate. And those are little gold seeds inside your inside. So I know lots of them will do IMRT. Is it IMRT or SBRT? Unknown at this point.
Oh, well, that's a good question because one takes a very short amount of time and one takes a great deal of time.
Sure.
I did
I
IMRT.
actually said photon radiation.
Photon.
Photon, not proton.
I said
Well,
photon.
that could be either IMRT or SBRT.
SBRT, correct.
That's
How many,
pro-
how many sessions are they
proton is-
talking
Like
about?
30 sessions. So I don't think it's
So it's not SBRT. So
Right.
I think my first question would be, can you do this with SBRT?
Right.
Because they can radiate your gland and they can treat the Mets with SBRT. And instead of doing 30 sessions, you might finish up doing 5 or 6 sessions.
That's what I understand.
The thing that you got to push for your convenience, is SBRT. If I was going through this today, I'd be wanting to do SBRT.
It's not
You know,
harder on your. It's not harder on your system.
No.
No. I would look at Mac Roach's presentation at like it's the Mark 2.8 on a video chat that he did recently with PCRI, and you'll see him discuss radiation. And you might find his presentation a little difficult to watch, but he's bloody knowledgeable. And he touches on SBRT, IMRT, all the different kinds. So before you go, I'd take a look at that.
And that was Mac.
Mac Roach.
ROACH, and it was somebody, some kind person here will put in the chat window the link to the PCRI presentation.
Oh, I have the PCRI presentation, yes.
Okay, it was on the second day.
Okay.
All right, and he was the last speaker, the second speaker on the second day. Okay, and he does do a good job. Now, in my view, for me, I would want to do SBRT and not IMRT today. And I would be pushing for that. If they don't have the equipment, I'd be asking them who does in this area and who's qualified to do it. Because that way you don't have to schlep to the hospital for 30 consecutive days.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's disruptive, no doubt. But
right. And it
whatever,
can be
whatever it takes.
The technology is there. Sometimes you may need fiduciaries for that. Sometimes you may not. They have another system now where they can scan you. They do, I guess, a CT or they do an MRI. I forget which. Dr. Mark, which is it they do, the CT or the MRI?
ViewRay is MRI. It was a piece of cake, and I finished today. No side effects. Great music to listen to. A lot of noise from the MRI, but no fiducials, no spaceOAR, and had a great experience at UCLA.
Okay, check the chat window for that, Jim Barnes.
And Jim, I can tell you, I did IMRT, and I would do SBRT if I was to do it again.
Yeah.
Rick pushed me to do SBRT, but for some unknown reason, I didn't take his advice.
Right. Don't let them railroad you into the IMRT. Okay, it's old technology. I did IMRT, but I did, and Mac designed it. But I did IMRT in 2008. January 2008, I started my IMRT and did 25 sessions, and then I got brachices. But the point is, you don't need to do that right now. And you got to stand up for yourself, and there's good evidence, just the same way as there's good evidence to start abiraterone before enzalutamide. Are the other ways wrong? They're not wrong. They just aren't the best for the patient. You've heard us say that enough times, Barnes. Do you have a t-shirt yet?
No, I got to figure out how to get one.
You go to the website and you click on what is it?
I'll get there. I'll figure it out.
What is it, guys? Oh, support us. You go to support us, and then right under support us, you got shock. I'm going to put the link in the window for you. And I want you to order this and then show up in your sweatshirt or your t-shirt saying, Peter, where are you, Peter? Oh, he's left. Oh, well, John Ivory, stand up, John Ivory. Thank you. Be your own best advocate, okay?
You bet.
Okay.
You can always use another sweatshirt.
You can always use another sweatshirt. By the way, we make very little money off of these, but we get good advertising and it's fun. They're great fun. So, but no, Jim, I mean, seriously, I just feel that they're giving you good treatment, but they're not giving, but it's too close to being community standard. And we want you to get more than that. And we want you to get the best treatment to make it the easiest for you. And both these points, the abiraterone and the SBRT, that's what they're about. Okay.
I will bring those up and push that direction.
Okay, and if you need ammo, tell us. We'll provide you with the ammo. All right, guys. It's 7:12. I will tell you who I still need to visit with and who I haven't seen yet. And if you guys want to stay, I'll stay. So, oh, and I just wanted to say one thing to Ken Anderson, which is you're seeing a lot of good results from the docetaxel right now. And it's moving down pretty constantly. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get another jump. I think you have to keep doing it until you reach a nadir. And if you get stuck on the nadir for a session or so, then let's talk. But you've got to keep pushing it if you can tolerate it, as long as it's going down.
No, I'm sure that's why Paul hasn't replied. Because I send him my labs and I told him to give me a heads up when it's too toxic. And if it gets too toxic, he'll see it and he'll tell me.
Right.
So I agree. I don't want to do 12 rounds or 9 rounds or anymore, but I'm going to. So.
Okay, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
All right, Jake, you heard that.
All right. In fact, I'm going to use that. If it ain't broke, that's enough of a reminder for me.
That'll be the next T-shirt.
Okay, that's right. Now let me see. We've got Len, we've got Joel, we've got Mark, and we got Russ. Are you guys game to stay to keep going?
Not me. I got a hard stop right now. Actually, 10 o'clock. So I'm going to have to drop off. Rick, you can scratch
what? You said it was very quick. Just tell us what it was.
Oh, PSA went from 0.02 to 0.03 6 weeks after dropping Lupron.
Okay, and again, 0.02 to 0.03 could just be a testing error.
Right. Yeah, I'm sticking with just darolutamide monotherapy.
Okay. Okay. So you're on darolutamide monotherapy, and you've got you've got okay. Got it. All right. You're excused. I'll see you in the morning. We're talking tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Now we've still got Mark. We've still got Russ. And we've still got Joel. Is Joel? Yes. Are you guys game to stay with us?
I'll stay, but you skip over me. It's not that important. I'll get it in 2 weeks from now. Your next meeting, I have my meeting, so I can't do it.
Okay, well, in that case, you go first.
Okay, just a PSA update from my SBRT. It flared up to 1.76, went to 1.3, then down to 1.0, down two readings to 0.8. And now my next reading is 1.03, up 0.2 of a point. I've had an abscopal effect for about 6 months now, and now it's reversed. So the next thing I'm going to have to do is, of course, I'm going to take Antonarakis's opinion and suggestion, but I was wondering if the Axeman PET scan would be next for me, or if I need to hunt for another PSMA.
So let me just get, so I know you were at 1.0.
Yeah.
I saw that, and that was, I have that. What was the date of that 1.0?
Probably June of this year.
That's what I thought.
And then it went down to 0.8 twice. That would be July, August, and September. And July and August, I guess. And then September it was 1.03.
Okay, so we have a couple of 0.8s, 0.8, 0.8, and then we got a 1.03.
Correct.
So that's three. Yeah, it's up 0.3. Well, it's up 0.2 from 0.8 to 1.03.
Yep. So it's now reversed. Antonarakis wants me to do something after 3 ticks up. My radiation oncologist wants to do something after 2 ticks up. So I've had 1 tick up, so it's just a matter of waiting game now.
And what does your radiation oncologist want to do?
Probably another PSMA.
And where does he think you're going to get that?
I don't know. We haven't talked about it recently, and so actually he's talking to our group in November, and my next appointment with him is also in November. So things have changed, of course, as far as the availability of PSMAs, with John Hopkins not doing them. So did I say John Hopkins? I meant NIH, and not doing them. So I'm willing to pay the $2,900 if that's the price, and whenever they want me to take one. But if we can get it free, that's fine too. Has Peter put out his results yet of the PSMA search?
Well, that's a very good question, but we don't know where Peter is. I see something moving in the corner of Peter's icon. I don't know if that's Peter or something blowing. I think it's something blowing in the wind. Do you see that? There's like a little finger that keeps moving.
I saw him answer the phone a while ago. He's probably still on the phone.
Peter hasn't put it out, but it's a good point, and we will, if he shows up before the end of the meeting, we'll stop to ask him where it is. But I know he's done a bunch of work on it. I can tell you that, Joe.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe an Axeman is the way to go.
Yeah, yeah. If it happens to be in the pelvic region, wherever the cancer is, if it's in the pelvic region, the Axeman does pretty good in the pelvic region.
Yeah.
As well as the PSMA, if not better.
Yeah. Anybody have anything they want to contribute to Joel as to what to do next regarding the scans?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm with the person who says, let's wait for the next one. And then we'll deal with it.
Yeah, well,
it could still be noise. It still could be noise.
Well, and also to confound things even more, I went from Quest Diagnostic to Sunrise Medical to LabCorp, and my next one is back to Quest. When I realized the problem, I switched back to Quest, but it's been a couple of months. So
you can't compare. You
that?
Really can't compare from one lab to another. There's such variation in methodology. Even in the same lab with PSA test in general, you can see up to a 15% variation if you take the same sample and run it on different days. So I think your docs are saying waiting 2 and consider a PSMA scan, or wait 3 before you get actively involved makes a lot of sense.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
What was the, I'm sorry, I got distracted by the chat window. What was the 0.8 and the 1.03 from the same lab?
No, two different labs.
Different labs. Yeah, I definitely agree. I didn't pick that up. Definitely agree. Get it. Oh, go get a test right now from the same lab as the 0.8.
I have a test scheduled with Quest on 12th October.
It's so important to be consistent in your labs, guys, especially at these lower levels. Okay. All right, Joel, you're excused for 2 weeks.
All right, thank you.
You and I will be talking about FRAS in the interim, I'm sure. And thank you again for expediting that with, and it turned out I don't even have his email. I need to try and get his email, but I don't even have his email. I'd like to try and get his, because I know you communicate with him on the portal, right?
Correct, yeah. You're very welcome, Rick, anytime.
Thank you, thank you. And Mr. Perloe, Dr. Perloe, to me.
So in a minute here, we're going to celebrate with our special post SBRT dinner tonight. I did 5 ViewRay, which uses the MRI to address my seminal vesicle and what's left of the prostate after the Tulsa Pro. I started with 0.3 PSA after the Tulsa Pro. So we argued back and forth, which was more significant, the PSA or the seminal vesicle. And I saw Jeffrey Turner today, who recommended starting the abiraterone and prednisone, which I expected and think is probably the right direction to go. I took a 6-month triptorelin, 5 months left, so we'll probably keep with the abiraterone for 5 more months and then monitor things off. I do have an appointment with Alicia Morgan's Wednesday this week just to get another opinion on that before moving forward. But I'm already barely making it up and down the stairs, feeling like 2 or 3 naps a day is what I'd like to do, and not having much energy to exercise. Any guidance for how to deal with those symptoms when I add abiraterone to the mix?
Well, and how long you've been on the LHRH for a month, did you say?
Yeah, so it'd be a total of 6 months on LHRH and 5 months of abiraterone.
Okay, and what did you say they gave you? Eligard or Zoladex?
Triptorelin.
That's Trelstar, I think, isn't it? Triptorelin is.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just say, the fact that you're feeling absolutely knackered is hardly surprising, given that you've just finished 6 sessions of SBRT. You're a month into your 5 sessions?
Yeah.
Okay, call me Fisher. 5 sessions of SBRT. And your LHRH is starting to kick in. And now they're going to talk to you about the abiraterone. I do think, however difficult it is, you really have to get, you really have to do some exercise, even if it's only 15 minutes on a stationary bike. Okay? I mean, wherever you're staying, do you have a stationary bike there?
I don't have a bike, but I'm doing stairs, and I've gotten bands, and I have dumbbells that I'm using.
Okay, but I want you to do some cardio.
Okay.
And going up and down stairs is not an easy way to do cardio. So, no. So, do you have a gym membership you can use in LA?
We leave LA and go back to Atlanta tomorrow, but I have a membership. I haven't felt COVID safe going, so I don't have a place right now for doing that.
All right, then in that case, go on to Craigslist as soon as you get back to Atlanta and buy yourself a stationary bike for $50 or $100. Okay? And stick it down in the basement or in the garage and start pedaling for 50 minutes. I cannot tell you how important. Who else can testify to Mark how important doing a little bit of exercise every day? Herb Geller, speak up, man.
Well, I do half an hour of stationary bike every morning, get my pulse rate way up, sweat like hell. And other mornings, I'd rather run. So when the weather is nice, I do try to run. But I am now on a 7-day-a-week cardio schedule. And I don't know, I don't have any, I have to tell you, I haven't felt any of the kind of, a lot of the side effects from abiraterone that other people have been reporting.
Great, thank you.
It's so counterintuitive, but it is so effective. Anyone else? Can anyone else give us a testimonial for this, for the exercise?
You know, Rick, I of course can, but you know, at the same time, after doing SBRT, you know, you got to give yourself a little break. You know, I don't know when you finished it, but I would give yourself a little rest, but then get your butt in there and do it. As muscle mass drops like crazy on these drugs, and you lose strength in your legs, you lose strength in your upper body, and you lose strength in your heart. That's why getting your cardio up is really important. So I wouldn't give yourself a huge break, but I'd give yourself a little break.
Okay, I want to address one thing that Ken said. For me, a little break means getting on the bike for 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day. Nobody thinks you should do 45 minutes or an hour on the bike right now, but get that moving. When I did my IMRT, I exercised every day, mostly on the rowing machine, but not always. And the days I felt I couldn't do it, I went out and walked for 40 minutes, okay? And I got really tired towards the back end of my IMRT. By that point, I'd been on LHRH for about 3 months, but it made a huge difference, Mark. If you do this, you'll come back to us next week. If you start and you'll say, you know, I know you'll tell me I'm feeling a little better already. I know you will.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. And then the resistance, yes, you got to do it and you'll do it. But the resistance, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, you'll build it in. But try to figure out a way you can do 10 or 15 minutes, just a brisk walk, if nothing else. That's hard. The reason I tell you exercise bike is because it's easy to sit on that bike and pedal, easier than going out to walk for a walk. So, okay.
Thank you.
But it's much more boring. I cannot, it is so boring to sit in front of that screen and pedal. Whereas going out for a walk or a run, it's so different. So I sympathize with, you know, I just can't do it after half an hour. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Each one,
Well,
you know, it takes a course. Go on.
I use a treadmill, and I'm doing it every morning. The first thing I get up, and I walk anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 miles in anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And then I've got the upper body. I've got dumbbells, and I do that like 3 times a week. But I find that 2.5 to 3.5 mile walk really helps for the day.
And I do think, Mark, that once you start this, you'll be in better shape to deal with the abiraterone.
Sounds great.
Okay. You didn't want to hear us tell you that, did you? I know.
Well, I mean, for me, the weights and the stretch is and strength building is always been more something that I've focused on than the aerobics.
Yeah.
But I'll add that back in.
You know what, Doc? It oxygenates your blood.
It does, but if you want to lower insulin and strengthen the heart, it's strength training more so than aerobics. But we can argue that another day.
Okay, we can mix them. We can mix them.
That's fine. It's an area that I've gone around to health clubs and lectured on, and every single patient that comes through is in need of that. So we talk a lot about exercise as part of the practice too. So you're preaching to the choir.
Okay, but it does work, honestly, Dr. Mark. It really does work. Promise you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Listen, thank you for bearing. Anybody else? Is there anybody left here who I didn't get to, who said they wanted to speak tonight? Because I have one very hungry dog who's been nuzzling me ever since I brought him back from a crap. So it was a successful walk, by the way. Okay, thanks, guys, and
thank you.
Patience and
All right.
Next Tuesday.
Take care of that dog.
I will. I will.
All right. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye bye.
Good night, everybody.